Yeah.
Shonette Sullivan with the Shekinah Group. How are you doing? Thank you for joining me.
Oh, Myson, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the stage. I'm saying
You
on the
are,
stage as if I am on Clubhouse. I'm on Facebook.
you know more about Clubhouse than I do. So
Yes.
I'm excited to talk with you to open the door, especially specifically for basketball trainers towards, because I'll be honest, most of the basketball trainers may want to look at highlights and specific basketball drills and cool things, but it doesn't make sense to look at those drills if we can't pay our bills and take care of the financial things that allow us to run a business. So would you mind explaining exactly what it is you do for your clients?
Yes. So for those who are not aware who I am Shonette Sullivan. I'm an accountant, tax professional, and advanced certified QuickBooks Online Pro advisor. And I specialize in helping small business owners reduce the anxiety and overwhelm of managing their business finances and helping them gain peace of mind. What I do offer bookkeeping, tax preparation, and QuickBooks training and consulting. I also provide QuickBooks coaching to those small business owners who do not have the cash flow to actually afford a bookkeeper. I train them on how to use the product so they can be successful in running their business. And so
So
that's what I do.
basically, if we don't know how to use QuickBooks, you'll train us on how to actually use it and organize everything so it makes sense for us.
Yes. So I won't actually teach you accounting. I will teach you QuickBooks. And that's actually the key in learning how to use QuickBooks because it'll make it easier for your accountant or bookkeeper at the end of the year. So yes.
What I know, a few actually have QuickBooks in the group. There's so many packages and so many plans with QuickBooks. Which one do you suggest that we have?
And so here's what I would say, and I get this question a lot. And I'm actually going to do another video about that specifically. What I want to say is there are actually five different levels of QuickBooks now. There's QuickBooks Self-Employed, there's QuickBooks Simple Start, there's Essentials Plus, and then there's Advanced. And what I would say is QuickBooks Self-Employed is not QuickBooks Self-Employed is for the side hustle. It's a standalone product, so it's not even technically QuickBooks Online. So QuickBooks Self-Employed is a side option. It's a standalone, but it's for those who have a side hustle. And so if you are a serious trainer, you're an LLC, you are a growing business, QuickBooks Self-Employed is not right for you. What I would say, without knowing all the details of your business, to start with QuickBooks Simple Start, because you can upgrade from QuickBooks Simple Start to the other levels. From self-employed, you can't upgrade from self-employed. You have to start a whole new subscription. You have to go through a whole different process of getting new data into a new file, and it's just not feasible for a business that is growing, and it's not just a side hustle.
Got it. Okay. So not self-employed because you're right. I did have to start from scratch, honestly, and then move to online, I believe, was the one
Mhm.
that is the most, I guess, robust enough for you to get your reports and some of the other things that I know I'm talking about that you probably suggest the trainers have. So Simple Start is the one to start with because you can upgrade whenever you need to.
Yes. And then, the self-employed does not give you the reporting that you need. So self-employed will give you the profit and loss, but it won't give you the balance sheet. And so when you go before a lender, the number two reports they ask for is the profit and loss and the balance sheet. And self-employed doesn't give you that.
Okay. Can you explain what a balance sheet is and the profit and loss statement?
Okay, so a profit and loss statement is a statement that shows how much you've made, the income that you've had coming in, and then it shows the expenses that you have. And so once you take the income minus your expenses, you can either have a profit or you can have a loss. That's why it's called a profit and loss statement. So it actually shows how your business is performing on a month-to-month basis. The balance sheet, on the other hand, it shows how much you're worth. It shows all the debts that you have, the liabilities, but then it also shows everything you own. And so the lenders look at both of those statements to see your credibility. And so if you're too far in debt, your liabilities far outweigh what you owe or what you own, that can be seen as a liability. So in short, a profit and loss statement is it shows your income minus expenses, and the balance sheet shows what you're worth, what your business is worth, should I say?
Okay. Okay. And really for the profit and loss. One thing and not to get too far ahead, one thing I had to look at managing by the numbers again to remember that the profit and loss, like you said, there's revenue, there's sales, and then there's the cost of all those sales. And it shows how much money is in profit, how much revenue we have left.
Mhm.
Uh, but it doesn't show how much cash we actually have in the bank.
Right. And so
So
that's
how does that work?
the other statement that didn't mention is a cash flow statement. So, a profit and loss can trick you because you're saying, okay, I have this much money coming through my bank account. I have this much money that I've accumulated or have come through in sales, but why is not that not reflected in my bank account? And so that's why you have the third statement, which is the cash flow statement. The cash flow statement actually shows you on an operational level where you are as it relates to your cash. And if you're cash poor, your business will not survive. So you can have tremendous sales and operate with your expenses, but if that cash flow is not feasible, your business will struggle. So say for example, and if we use, for example, a personal paycheck. So if you're working for your employer, you get paid every 2 weeks. So if you received your check in the bank on a Friday and you pay all your bills on that Friday, you're short for the next 2 weeks. You're out of luck for the
Hmm.
next 2 weeks. And so when we
Right.
talk about cash flow, we talk about managing that flow of money in and out so that it's available when you need it.
And so it's tax season right now, and I know I've used TurboTax before. I've used, I think, mainly TurboTax. This is the first year that I've used a CPA, and it's nice. I will admit, I'd never understood how important having a bookkeeper and a CPA is, and sometimes people say one or the other, but not both. What can you talk to me about the importance of the bookkeeper and what that role is?
Yes. So the bookkeeper is more proactive and a tax professional is reactive. And so with having a bookkeeper, if you have messy books, you'll have messy taxes. And so if your income is overstated, and we've talked about this, Mice, and if your books are a mess, your income will be overstated, and then you end up paying more in taxes. Your tax liability will be high. So the money that you are trying to save by not having a bookkeeper, you'll pay for on the back end on your tax return. And so it is beneficial to have a bookkeeper to make sure that your income is not overstated and that you are allowed to take the deductions that you are allowed at the end of the year.
Say it again. The money you try to save by not paying for a bookkeeper, you'll pay on the back end in taxes.
You'll pay to the IRS.
You're gonna pay it either way. Just
You'll
who are
pay
you paying it to?
you'll pay either way. Whether it's to the bookkeeper or to the IRS. So you decide. And then it costs you, I would say it will cost you more on the back end for the a bookkeeper to fix it than it would for you to do it on a consistent basis.
So I guess for you, the fun challenge is how do you help people see that this is a preventative measure and not a a cleanup measure, you know?
Yeah, so it's people like you, Myson. I've helped you, and
Oh, my,
and
my books were awful. I'm sorry to cut you off. My books were awful. And I think one time you said, "This is bad, Myson. This is bad."
and that's because I can be honest with you. Like Myson, no, we can't do this again. No, but we have to
Yeah.
change this. Yeah, yeah,
No, that you saved the day because my goodness, I had to go through, and it took work. Like you had to go through
yeah.
every bank statement, every transaction. Who was this? Who did you pay this to? Or who was this person? Is this a business? I mean, there was so many questions and things I couldn't even answer because it was years of just me spending on the personal card or the business card, just not having any kind of idea towards what I was doing. So, I mean, where do you even start with something like that? With somebody who has bad books, what would you suggest that they do to even get things set up before they even go to a bookkeeper?
Yeah. So one of the things I'll say is that having a bookkeeper is it requires vulnerability because a lot of people, they may have a strong facade, and once a bookkeeper comes in and wants to work with them, that requires a level of vulnerability. So what I would say is first hire someone or look for someone that you can connect with, someone that you know, like, and trust, And then when you're prepared to meet with that bookkeeper, you know, like if you have messy books, you know they have not been caught up. Once you go to that bookkeeper, before you get to them, you want to make sure you have all your bank statements for the time that you need to have reviewed. So if it was for 2020, you make sure you have all those bank statements for 2020, and you can go through those bank statements and really account for those transactions that have run through your bank statements. And so one of the things, Myson, too, I'm passionate about is because my own mother was an entrepreneur and she didn't have the financial wherewithal. And so just like her, a lot of business owners jump into business with passion and drive, but no financial direction. So and I would say to other trainers who are listening, you know, you're not alone. And I mean, it's a common thing. And so it starts with vulnerability, though.
Mm. So first thing is be vulnerable because someone is going to be uh, combing through some
Mhm.
very finite details and purchases, and you'll potentially have to explain some different actions you've taken in the past with your finances, which is very, I don't know, somebody put it to me like this, and then not to be vulgar, but he put it to me like some people would rather just strip naked than
Mhm.
show you their bank account. It is that private and that sacred to people.
Mhm. And it's
And
intimidating. Yeah.
yes,
Mhm.
yes. And have you had people who just haven't been able to work with you because they just didn't want to be
Oh,
that vulnerable?
I've had some people ghost me, like,
Mm,
okay, you want me to help you, you want me to reduce your tax liability, you want me to get your books in order, but I need to see your books. And come to find out, you know, there are some really risque things running through their bank account. And so I
mhm.
can't, you know, I couldn't. And what I would say to everyone listening, you don't know what you don't know. So you don't. Some people don't know that you don't mix business and personal. But once you get to the bookkeeper, you're going to have to deal with all the business and personal that came through, and then you move forward and you move forward from there. But I have had the experience where I haven't been able to help some people because they're not ready. And then when I have helped some people, they knew what I was able to see.
Mhm.
And so they were like, okay, you know this side of me, but you don't know that side of me. But because of who I am, I have to work in confidentiality. And that's why I say go back to hiring someone you know, like, and trust, and who has integrity to keep all of your information confidential.
So with QuickBooks, that seems that it is. Well, for me, I really enjoy QuickBooks because it does. It's easy for you to manage and see everything and help me out, but it also gives me the leeway to itemize certain things and to make sure that my categories are correct and look at the reports. So for that trainer who is going to get simple start, what do you think the most powerful benefit of getting, or even the person who doesn't have QuickBooks, what is the most powerful benefit of having that uh, alongside the taxes, right? I mean, because what do you say? Poor books means poor taxes, and you might
Yeah.
pay more than what you initially wanted to because you don't have accurate bookkeeping.
Mhm.
Um, but other than that, what would you say is, which is really should be strong enough as it is, what's another benefit of having QuickBooks or a bookkeeping system in general for the trainers?
Well, it allows you to see where you are on a month-to-month basis instead of being surprised at the end of the year. So it
Mm-hmm.
allows you to see how your business is functioning, because your numbers tell the story. And so the handwriting is always on the wall. A lot of times you see corporations shutting down, but they saw the handwriting on the wall before it shut down. So having a software that, even started with simple start, having that software will let you see where you are on a month to month basis, and allow you to plan proactively instead of reactively. And so it will give you another sense of peace and another sense of peace of mind in that regard. So that's what I would say. That it's very important to have, and just start where
You
you are.
know,
Hmm.
start where you are,
Hmm.
which could be different for a lot of us.
Yes.
It could be
Yes.
um, honestly, for me, I'm thinking back to 3 years before the MBA program, the Chamber of Commerce program, which is where we met.
Hmm.
Uh, I I used my personal bank account. Like
Hmm.
I had my personal bank account and I swiped everything there. I didn't know what really was a business transaction. I just assumed everything was business. I didn't know that I had to only take 50% of the meals, and it could come back to bite that first year that I did it on my own and didn't have everything correct.
Hmm. Yeah. And
How,
so, go ahead.
listening, I'm listening.
And so let's go back to, because there are a lot of people listening, and again, you don't know what you don't know. And so, and I say that to them and to anyone who's listening. You don't know what you don't know. So if you are an LLC, and we'll talk about the co-mingling because you mentioned having a personal account. If you're an LLC, you should have a business bank account. Point blank. Like, of course, you didn't know yesterday, but from this point forward, you have to have a business bank account because an LLC, by default, and this is tax side of me speaking, an LLC by default means limited liability corporation. If you are running everything through your personal account, business and personal, you're tying yourself directly to the liability of that company because you're commingling. And so, although it says LLC, with you having everything run through that same bank account, you're holding yourself liable because you said, okay, I'm still tied to the business, and I'm piercing the corporate veil by commingling my funds. So, if there's one thing I could say about what you just said, Myson, with that living out of your personal account, because you just didn't know. But this point forward, everyone who's listening, if you do not have a business bank account and you are an LLC, please get you a business bank account tomorrow or today, as soon as you can.
Right.
Yeah.
So after we get that business bank account, then it's as simple as getting a simple start and syncing the integration between QuickBooks and the Bank of America or the Chase or whatever our bank account is, because QuickBooks integrates with just about any bank account from what I've seen. Uh, then what happens after it integrates and it has access to that? What's the next step?
Well, see, it pulls all of your information in. And so, what happens is once it pulls all of your information in, it's pulled into what you call the bank feed. The bank feed is what your bookkeeper looks at, but it can also be what you're looking at if you are managing your own books. And then once it comes in, you can tell your money where to go, and that's what we call the chart of accounts. The chart of accounts just tells your money where to go. And so when you think about your personal budget, you have different line items on your budget, and you name your budget. You name those line items. So if you think about the chart of accounts in QuickBooks, you're just telling your money where to go. And then at the end of the year or at the end of the month, you see where it went. And so it's basically, the business financial management. And so, and then when we talk about the chart of accounts, and then I know it's a broad answer, Myson. When we talk about the chart of accounts, even when you're setting it up, it can affect how it flows to your tax return as well.
Yeah, I think of it as, my personal account, it had a software where it would tell you this is for meals, this is for entertainment, this is for groceries. And it did that, which that was what I kind of equate the chart of accounts to. But for the business side, it's so much more nuanced in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And it does help with the taxes, but it also helps with, when you read those reports, I've noticed like, oh my goodness, the rent was 5% more this month than last month, or
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like it's small, but 5% could be a lot when you're talking about certain numbers. Or the software cost was 10% more this month, or there were like other irregular expenses. So it does help to have an idea towards what I really like about QuickBooks is there's a percentage of what this expense was for your overall expenses. And you can see the breakdown of, okay, contractors cost 20%, rent costs 20% too. And I don't know, I just like, that's probably one of my favorite features of QuickBooks right now, to kind
Mm-hmm.
of manage by the numbers, so to speak.
Yeah. And so even with that, they would have to know how to activate that feature, Myson.
Mm, mm.
Because unless you knew how to set up your report to view those features and the percentages, you wouldn't just be able to pull the report to see.
See, I'm spoiled though. I'm just talking because I have it all set up because you've helped me with this in the past. What is, it's interesting with the basketball training space, because do you have any family members who play basketball or enjoyed it in the game?
No, they enjoy the game. I can't say that I've had any that play basketball, but they all enjoy it. Yeah.
Okay, so I think anybody knows pretty much there's a scoreboard. Like whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins, and
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to see who's winning because the scoreboard is up there for everybody to see. But when it comes to, it's crazy thinking about when it comes to business, like you said earlier, like you even gave the example with your mom, like she had so much passion and heart behind it, but not the financial literacy. I guess, did you say literacy or financial acumen
Yeah.
behind it for business? And for us, it's like it's our scoreboard really to see how we're doing with our financial goals, and we can't really look at the score if we don't have the information or the correct data.
hmm and that will eat away at your confidence.
Yeah.
So it will eat away at your confidence. And so, yeah. So it's just so important. Yeah.
You're operating blind. Like it for me, now I don't want to sound judgmental because I did it, but you literally are operating blind and you're looking at your personal bank account more so than your business bank account. You don't know the difference between the two if
hmm
you don't have this stuff set up. And I don't know, I wish people have said it before. I read it in articles, but no one's really, I haven't had anybody personally tell me like, no, you need to make sure you have a bookkeeper. Like it's mandatory, it's not an option. You need to make sure you have these books set up. I've
hmm
heard it say it before, but I took it with a grain of salt. But now, people don't want to hear about it. I mean, we got 1,000 something people in the group, and three people are listening right now.
hmm
But it's so important. Like I'll keep saying it because you've helped me more than anything when it comes to the finances and seeing this stuff. So I really do appreciate your help. And I'm curious to know, who do you work with? Like, I mean, of course you helped me out, but who are your clients? What's your client base?
So most of all of my clients are service-based business owners. So I work with therapists. I work with trainers like you, Myson, and I also work with those who have studios or who are coaches and consultants. So I work with service-based businesses. So I haven't fully niched down to a particular service industry, but those are the clients that I work with currently.
Okay. And that question just came up too. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. What do you do if you have two businesses? Like if you, for example, there's the basketball training business here, then there's Hoops Institute, where what I really would like to do more of, which is help other basketball trainers with their websites, with their marketing, with those things. Would that need to be two different accounts, or would you have to split that? How do you advise people with two businesses?
So if you have to, if it's the same type of business, so my and yours is the same type of business, and what you can do within QuickBooks in its particular version, I think it's at QuickBooks Online Plus. Not, I don't think Essentials has it, but QuickBooks Online Plus, they have classes. It's called classes and locations. And so with using the features of the classes, you know that when the income comes through your account, you can say, okay, this is income, but it's sales for hoops. And then you can set up another class, okay, but it's sales for my consulting or training. And so it's just like within QuickBooks, you can use within QuickBooks, you can have two businesses in one account, but you have to divvy it out by classes and locations. But an easier way, if you want to see two different P&Ls or any, but with classes, you can run your P&L by class. So, which is why you can use one subscription. You can run a P&L by class. And so you can run a P&L for Hoops University and you can run another P&L for the Training Institute. But then the other way to do it is to have two separate subscriptions. So that way you're not concerned about classes. You can run two different P&Ls. You can do everything independent of each other.
Got it. That makes sense because if you did it two, then you would have to specify, because I know for you and I, we talked about Stripe and trying to integrate Stripe with QuickBooks, which I think is possible. It just caused a lot of trouble the first time I tried to do it. You would have to be able to identify that income inside of QuickBooks and specify that it is a different source rather than the original source. Uh, it sounds like, well, I don't know. Maybe it's a question for offline because I'm getting into more and more personal stuff. I guess to finish it off, two other questions. What did that process for anybody who's interested in this and really needs help with their books? What did it look like for me for Hoops University, and what could it look like for the trainer that's listening right now, uh, working with you to get their books set up?
So, and see, you were different, Myson, when you came in. You know, we just jumped in, hit the ground running.
That's true. This is
But
true.
now, with my new clients, what I first do is if I were to manage the books, we would first do a diagnostic review. We would do a review of where you are at the moment, and then we would talk about everything that needs to be done. So before we start monthly bookkeeping, we will first clean it up. We have to clean you up to get you into compliance, and then we'll start the monthly process. And so that's where we start in that regard. And then if you just newly set up, you want to actually set up your QuickBooks. Again, we schedule a consultation. We talk to see if we're a good fit, and then we'll talk about how we'll get the book set up. And then once I set it up, train you, give you 2 hours within that setup to train you on how to use the software from there. And then you have the option to continue to use it on your own, or hire me to do the work for you. And then the third option is to just have training sessions. Because Mason, I think that's how you initially signed up, was that we just started out with training sessions where you learn the ropes on your own.
Right. Then I realized like, oh, this is awful. I need more than just I need more than just you telling me what I need to do. I need your actual help doing this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it saves you time and money. It's stressful, especially when you don't know. And even if I've trained you and showed you how to do it, it's like you still stressed out. Like, okay, can I really do this? Like, it's just too much energy where you could be spending that time with your team and with your students.
And you know what? It at first I was like, oh, I wasn't used to, and obviously anything that's quality is worth paying for. But it's interesting seeing like my price. I guess elasticity is the word. And seeing how much it impacted me to pay and my thought towards it. Initially, I was like, I had to think about it. I'm like, man, that's more than I ever paid for. But then, like now, like talking to you about this stuff, it's a no brainer. It's like I don't even think twice about it. Sometimes I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I'm like, please, just whatever it costs, just let me know. Like I just need the help, and it's worth whatever number you throw out there. And I'll obviously you don't take advantage of that in price gouge, which I appreciate. But your time is valuable, and the thing that you're doing is so valuable. So just seeing that shift from being super tight, which I still am frugal, to like saying whatever the number is, like let's do it. It's amazing, and I think the other trainers will have the same response too whenever they actually do get their books right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So my the only thing I want to know, and so
yes.
my specialty is making sure that I reduce your stress and your overwhelm, and that I've given you a greater peace of mind. So if you can attest to that, that I have given you a greater peace of mind, because that's what I say. That's what I live by. What people ask me, what's different about me? My At the end of the day, as long as I've helped you sleep better at night, allow you to have better peace of mind, my mission is accomplished. It's more, it's more about the dollars, but it's less about the dollar. Of course, I want to be profitable, but it's more about the impact. Like, what impact have I had in your life? And that's what makes a difference for me.
Okay. Man, my hairline's not going back as far from stressing over this the finances. I will say I like for me, and I've heard Dave Ramsey say this too, like if you want to touch or strike a man's ego or his spirit, talk about his finances. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, like I've always been really frugal and I've always wanted to make sure that my finances were in order and I felt good about that just for my own security. And beforehand, like I was crushed, especially when we started the MBA program. I felt good about the revenue, but I didn't really understand that, oh, you have to start over from ground zero. Cause I really had to start over with the books because things weren't in line. So I really was stressed because I felt like it was taking away from the time of actually growing and getting more sales. And it was backtracking, which I didn't like and I didn't have time for. I didn't want to spend time on. So that was stressful, just and demoralizing, honestly, to have to go backtrack like I felt like I did. So when I did meet you, and then when we did start working together and started working through these things, I slowly but gradually, I'll be honest, I had hope. Like as soon as we started, I had hope because I knew that one day I wasn't going to have to actually worry about this as much, and it was going to be a process. But when it was finished, I was going to feel really good, really, really good. Um, and I guess I can fast forward to when I realized, like, oh my gosh, like, of course, with the NBA, but with you, I wouldn't have been able to know the financial health of the business. And I wouldn't have been able to know that, hey, we increased the net profit 100%, 120%. And I wouldn't have these metrics to be able to look at to actually have honest conversations with my fiance right now. Like, hey, here's what's in the bank. Here's how much we need if we want to do this thing full time together. It's just I have this stuff set up now to where honestly I can go on with my life and be accurate with the numbers and speak that language that helps us set up our career. And I'm super thankful to you for it because I try to think about what it would be like if I didn't have this set up and I would be operating in the dark. I would not have an honest assessment on where the business was or is. And honestly, I would just be playing games, running around in circles. So it's a huge stress reliever. Uh, well, honestly, I couldn't operate the business without it, without you doing what you've done and your consistent help. And even now, like More tax liability, more taxes than I've ever had to pay, and it kind of like, ooh, it kind of threw me aback. And the CPA said you need to find some more expenses, and I dug and I tried to find it, and I found some, but even just like a recent example, this is like last week, 2 weeks ago, I was stressed out about that because of how much time it literally takes to get these things in line and to make sure that they're accurate, so you're not paying more in taxes than you need to, and getting in trouble with the IRS, which nobody wants to do. So you came through really quickly, honestly, and you made it a priority, which I really do appreciate, and turned it around really fast to make sure that honestly you saved me a big tax break, like a significant tax break, by finding those expenses and then making them accurate in my books. And I can go on and on, but the biggest thing is a huge stress. You are a huge stress reliever. I do have peace with the finances. I like going into my books now. I love going into them and seeing the profit and loss statement, the balance sheet, the cash flow statement, and knowing that it's actually accurate and having a accurate picture of the health of my business. So if that don't answer the question, I apologize, but it's a huge stress reliever. You have been a huge blessing to me and will continue to be one, I know. So thank you for what you do.
Oh no, Mike, and that was more than I anticipated. So I appreciate that. As long as you're as long as you're at peace. That was my major. That's my number one objective. Make your life easier. So yeah. But I do appreciate Myson, you trusting me, you trusting me with this area of your life, your business finances, because it's like I said, it's an area of vulnerability. So I appreciate that.
It must be a God thing because I ain't waste any time. When I met you, I was like, "Hey, well, I need to give you the credentials. Like, what do I need to do to get this set up?" Because anybody else would be like, but I don't know. It's just spirit, and like obviously with the MBA program, talking about your heart behind it and everything helped out as well. But yeah, I'm excited to keep partnering and working together.
I'm excited too, Myson. I'm excited.
Okay. Well, that's it. I don't think any trainers asked any questions here. They probably want to look at this later. We actually had a bookkeeper out of Wisconsin. He was on, and so I can't wait to talk to him about this and get his thoughts on it. He probably I mean, he's still here now. I think Nate Lockhart. But I will let you know if there are any trainers who need help with this. Please let me know, and can I just get them in contact with you, Shonette, and got them to the website if they're interested in your services?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll be happy to assist.